You can call me biased, call me a lot of things, but, when I look at the Clippers, I just don't see long term how they would be a good team. And I mean, I know it's early, right now they're 10-10 and, they've won, I think 7 out of their last 10 or something like that, or, somewhere in there. But when I look at the team, I just don't see, how it would, help them long term, because James Harden is one of those players where when you watch him play, he can give you good numbers. He can give you 20 and 11 the way he did against Denver. He can give you numbers like that. But the way he plays and the way he fits with his team is still really not a fit. They're trying to make something fit that really isn't. And to me, I'm on the bias part because I personally don't like the way they did Russ. I personally don't. I just don't like it. I think Russ should be in the starting lineup. I think James Harden should come off the bench. I think Russ fits with Kawhi and PG better. Like I said, their shot selection or their shot selection is different with Russ. They can dominate more with Russ, and they don't have to try to turn on a switch or flip a switch to, turn into great players or something like that when Russ is on the floor, because they can be that at all times because the spacing on the floor is a lot better for them and the way they play. Now, when James Harden was with Philly, it was a lot different because the big superstar for Philly is a big man, which is Joel Embiid. And when James Harden has a big man that he can pick and roll with, that's when his game really elevates more, and that's where he really flourishes a lot more. He feeds off of a big man, presence by playing the pick and roll and giving him the opportunity to step back with a three or, play the pick and roll, but, not actually execute it. And what I mean by that is, the big man sets a screen like Joel did in a lot of games, and Harden will run off the screen and he might not do the pick and roll. He just might step back with a three because Joel Embiid is so lethal. He might attract that double team, in which he does a lot of times. So when he attracts that double team, James Harden had the choice of taking the shot or just playing the pick and roll with him, which made Philly a really good team. Which is the reason why he led the league in assists last year, because he had somebody that dynamic at the 5 position. Whereas the Clippers, his pick and roll game is pretty decent, but Zubac is a lot different from Joel Embiid, and Zubac is not one of the star players on this team. So it's like he's not really benefiting Kawhi and PG to that extent. They're just taking shots, just because it doesn't look like no fluid movement in their offense. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, yeah, it's early, this and that. But I'm telling you, long term, I don't see the effect that the James Harden effect being the most effective for them. And as I said before, they got players and stuff on that bench that really could be contributing, that could make them a lot faster, that could make them a lot more fluid, and that could make them a little bit more dangerous. Because honestly, when you look at the Clippers offense, it's just really predictable. It's nothing to it. It's James Harden at the top, Kawhi is standing in the corner, PG is standing in the other corner. They'll run off and run a couple plays here and there, and when their jump shot is not falling, they're not gonna win many games. They're not. Their defense, yeah, of course, they're going to predicate themselves on defense and all that stuff like they're saying. But, I mean, you also have to score at a high level against a lot of these teams, because a lot of these teams, you can't hold them back defensively. Are you going to hold back Jokic and them in a 7-game series? Yeah, you may beat them 1 game, but think about it. The Clippers beat them 1 game in how long? That was the first time they beat them in a long time. And like I said, they had to come back and steal this one because, I mean, they got embarrassed with Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan on the floor about a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, it's like they had to get back on this one. It was just no other way. Like, you had to find a way to win this game. And the only reason why I think they won this game was because Jokic was 8 for 25 or something like that. Jokic was off. You know what I'm saying? He really was. If he wasn't that off, they wouldn't have won this game probably. They more likely would have lost. So, I mean, bad game by Jokic, you know what I'm saying? Good win for the Clippers. I'll give him that. But, I mean, is Jokic going to be off like that every time? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. And they don't have enough defense really to stop him. Even if you do, Zubac plays okay against Jokic. But I mean, if Jokic is getting, let's say he gets like 15 assists and 20 points, and he can average that easily against the Clippers, because I mean, the Clippers don't have no really defensive presence. Jokic is not, I mean, Zubac is not really a shot blocker. He's not a threat in there, and he's just a big body who will block a shot every now and then, but they don't really have nobody that they can utilize like that as far as like a defensive presence in the paint. They're using a little bit of Kawhi Leonard. They're using a little bit of everybody, to make up, because they're trying to go by this small ball opportunity in which Ty Lue wanted to present and run as a team. And I just don't think that small ball is going to help you in the long run, because when you're playing teams with length, playing teams that have a little bit of defense and teams that can score better, then you got a problem. Because, see, as of right now, the way you're looking at Kawhi and PG, they're around that 20 to 25 point average per game. And 20 to 24 points, average per game. And with their numbers being low like that, they have to find a way to turn that switch on at times in games where they might be down, and try to, magically flip that switch and turn their offense back on to where they're, where they can keep up with teams. Because you're not going to stop these teams defensively. You're just not going to do it, because it's too much talent out there. And Kawhi and PG just can't guard everybody. And James Harden, when it comes to the playoffs, remember, he's not a defensive guy. He doesn't play defense. And that's where I think the drawback really is going to come, because that's where Russell Westbrook becomes more valuable. Russ plays with more energy. He plays with more attack, fearless mentality. And Russ will play you hard as hell on defense. He really will. I mean, he made some defensive plays last year in the playoffs against the Phoenix Suns. The one he did against Devin Booker, the block, and threw it off his leg. James Harden probably not making a play like that. I mean, I'm just being real with you. James Harden is probably not going to make a play of that caliber at that moment, at that time, in a big game like that. I've never seen him do it. He'll make a big shot at times, but he's not going to make a big defensive play like that and really bring the energy back, with the Clippers. He's not that type of player, but Russ is. And that's why I said, you're taking away intensity. You're taking away that, a guy who will fight on defense, a guy who will fight on offense, a guy whose energy really is contagious. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like when Russ is on the floor, I feel like Kawhi and PG, I feel like they play defense better. I really do. I feel like his energy is just contagious like that. So I'm just saying, in the long run, I know the Clippers won a few games, and, they're, 7-10, I think, their last, several games, I think, and 7-3, their last 10 games, I believe, and all that. But long term, it's not good enough. I mean, because I see the same thing I see as far as James Harden with Philly last year. Philly did good in the regular season last year once they got going. But playoffs, James Harden was like, he was good, but he wasn't good enough for what they needed to get over the hump. And I just feel like that's going to be the same old James Harden. I mean, because they had the Celtics beat in that series, and all of a sudden the Celtics came back and won Game 6 and then won Game 7, I believe, and took it. Like, I don't even know how they even won that series, but the Celtics did. Jason Tatum struggled, the law firm struggled, but they still found a way to come out that series with a victory. I just don't understand how. But I mean, really, I do understand how, because James Harden had moments where he showed up and played big, and he had moments where he played very low. And that's going to be the MO for James Harden with this team, just like it was with every other team he's been with. That's just who he is. So my point is, they would be able to trust Russ a lot more in the long term. And the fact that they demean Russ by putting him on the bench or allowing him to go to the bench and not making that change between him and Harden it's going to affect the Clippers long term because, like I said, the spacing on the floor isn't there for Kawhi and PG. That's why they'll have between Kawhi and PG, you'll see them have 20, 25 points somewhere in there. But a lot of nights, you know what I'm saying, the shooting percentage isn't there. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, you never really see all of them have a good game like together. You know what I'm saying? And by now, even though it's been, 10 plus games, it still should look a lot better. And it would look a lot better if Russ was in the starting lineup. Because Russ was there before James Harden. They let James Harden come in here and they're letting him come in here and take over this team. And like I said, maybe it's just me being biased, but with James Harden taking over your team and running your team like this, I don't see championship. I don't see it. And like I said, I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. And I'm okay with that. But I mean, long term, based upon what I'm seeing, I see, I see them winning some games, in the regular season. I do. I see them winning some games, because they do got a lot of talent, things like that. But in the long term, if James Harden is running your team, I personally just don't see a championship. I could be wrong, but I just personally don't see it. I don't see their offense looking like a well-oiled machine, or it doesn't look like their offense ever will become a well-oiled machine. Because like I said, you got too many bad shot takers. Paul George is a bad shot taker. He can make shots at a high percentage at times, but he's a bad shot taker. He's a bad shot maker. So is James Harden. And you have two of them in your starting lineup, whereas before you only had one, which was Paul George in your starting lineup. Now, Russ, he'll take some bad shots at times, but Russ is not really a shooter. Russ is going to try to drive to the basket and pass the ball first and get other people involved. And if he's wide open, he'll take a three. So, I mean, his makeup is a lot different. James Harden, step back threes and all this stuff, and his game is predicated, his game is predicated off playing a pick and roll with a big man, and the Clippers' big man is not really that good. So, I mean, like, how is he really benefiting Kawhi and or PG? They're just taking shots just because of who they are. They're not taking shots off of they're not going to take shots off a lot of great passes that he's going to make sure they get and things like that. I mean, what he's doing, Bones Highland can do. You know what I'm saying? Bones Highland can just throw the ball to Kawhi in the post or, get it to PG on the perimeter. That's not something that, Terrence Mann can't do. You see what I'm saying? To me, when you kind of break a team's chemistry like that, I'm telling you, they could win some games this year and stuff like that. But when it comes to that 7-game series and them playoffs, who are they really going to match up well against? I mean, just totality wise, because like I said, you got a guy on the floor now who doesn't space the floor enough to give Kawhi more opportunity to score. And when you don't have, if Kawhi Leonard's not playing at his best and or PG or whoever, you're not going to win, especially now if Kawhi is not playing at his best. You're not going to win. You're just not. I just don't see it. I mean, like I said, I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. So, I mean, I'd be surprised if the Clippers win a championship now. I really do, because like I said, I just think, Russ coming off the bench, he's not really like a scorer like that. You know what I'm saying? He's not like a 3-point threat or something like that. So, you're taking away from his energy that he brings to the team. And that energy a lot of times is what gets teams over the hump and win. And like I said, what I saw with Russ in the playoffs last year with him and Kawhi, Russ played very, very well. And that energy Russ came with is unmatched. It is. And James Harden, yeah, I know a lot of you might be James Harden fans, but I mean, ultimately to me, I don't think James Harden is a better player than Russell Westbrook. I mean, you could say that he is, but he's not a better player than Russell Westbrook on this team. On this team specifically, Russ is a better player because he's a better fit. And when we talk about somebody being a better fit, I mean, that goes a long way to me. It really does. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I can't call it. I'm on the fence with the whole thing, really. But we'll see how it pans out. We'll see how it goes. All that. But don't be surprised if they fall on their face at some point. Honestly.